It was late at night when Amina asked her children, who were comfortably seated on the couch, "Don't you know it's already past your bedtime?" She crossed her arms and waited for an answer. Tunde, her son, turned to her with pleading eyes. "Mom, please, we're just trying to finish this chapter." "The book is so interesting," he said, clutching the novel in his hands. Funk, his twin sister, quickly chimed in, her excitement evident. "It's true, Mom. We've already gotten to the best part. We really want to know what happens next." Amina's stern expression softened, but before she could respond, her husband, Emeka, appeared in the doorway. "Let them be, dear," he said with a small smile. "Tomorrow is Saturday. They can stay up a little later." The twins let out a chorus of cheers, their faces lighting up. "Thank you, Dad. You're the best," they said in unison, their voices filled with joy. Amina shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. "You two are lucky your father spoils you." "Come on, love," Emeka said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Let's go to bed and leave them to enjoy their book." He gently guided her toward their room. As their parents disappeared down the hallway, Tunde and Funk turned their attention back to the novel. The story had reached a thrilling cliffhanger, and the twins were engrossed. Funk stole a glance at her brother, noticing how focused he was on the page. She leaned closer and whispered, "You're really into this, huh?" Tunde didn't respond, his eyes still scanning the text. Funk smirked and nudged him playfully. "What would you do if I said I was enjoying it too?" Tunde finally glanced at her, a faint smile on his face. "We're just reading a book, Funk. Don't make it weird." Funk laughed softly and leaned back, her eyes still on the page. The story continued, but the twins' playful banter filled the room with a light-hearted energy. The next morning, the twins woke up to a quiet house. Their parents had left early for work, leaving them to enjoy their Saturday. Funk found Tunde in the kitchen, making breakfast. "You walked out on me last night," she teased, leaning against the doorframe. Tunde chuckled. "I didn't walk out. I just didn't want to encourage your mischief." Funk rolled her eyes and joined him in the kitchen. As they ate breakfast, they talked about their plans for the day. "Let's just relax and finish the book," Funk suggested. "It's not every day we get the house to ourselves." Tunde agreed, and the twins spent the day lounging around, engrossed in the novel. However, their peaceful day was interrupted when their neighbor, Kechi, knocked on the door. "Good afternoon, children," she said, her tone serious. "I need to speak with your parents. Is Amina around?" Funk shook her head. "No, Kechi. She and Dad went out." "Is everything okay?" Kechi hesitated before speaking. "I just wanted to remind them to keep an eye on you too. Twins can be unpredictable." Tunde and Funk exchanged confused glances but nodded politely. "We'll let them know you stopped by," Tunde said. After Kechi left, Funk turned to her brother. "What was that about?" Tunde shrugged. "Who knows? She's always been nosy." Later that evening, Amina and Emeka returned home. Amina immediately noticed the twins' relaxed demeanor. "Did you two behave today?" she asked, her tone playful but probing. "Of course, Mom," Funk replied with a grin. "We just read and stayed out of trouble." Amina studied their faces for a moment before nodding. "Good. I'm glad you had a peaceful day." As the family settled in for the night, Amina couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She decided to keep a closer eye on the twins, trusting her instincts as a mother. The next day was Sunday, and the family attended church together. The service was lively, with the choir singing uplifting hymns and the pastor delivering a powerful sermon about family unity and trust. Amina couldn't help but glance at Tunde and Funk during the sermon, her mind drifting back to Kechi's cryptic words. "Twins can be unpredictable," she had said. Amina shook off the thought, reminding herself that her children were good kids. After church, the family returned home, and Amina busied herself in the kitchen preparing lunch. Tunde and Funk offered to help, but she shooed them away. "Go and relax. You've been so well behaved lately, you deserve a break," she said with a smile. The twins retreated to the living room, where they picked up the book they had been reading the night before. Funk flipped through the pages, her eyes scanning the text. "Do you think the main character will finally confess his feelings in this chapter?" she asked, her voice tinged with excitement. Tunde shrugged, leaning back on the couch. "I don't know. The author loves dragging things out. But I hope so. It's getting frustrating." Funk laughed. "You're so impatient. That's what makes it interesting." As they read, their playful banter continued, filling the room with laughter. But beneath the surface, there was a subtle tension. Funk had been more affectionate toward Tunde lately, and he wasn't sure how to respond. He loved his sister dearly, but her teasing sometimes crossed a line he wasn't comfortable with. Later that evening, after dinner, Amina and Emeka sat in the living room, discussing their upcoming week. The twins were in their room, supposedly doing homework, but Amina couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She decided to check on them. As she approached their room, she heard muffled whispers. She paused outside the door, her heart pounding. What are they talking about? She wondered. She knocked gently before pushing the door open. Tunde and Funk were sitting on the floor, surrounded by books and notebooks. They looked up, startled. "Mom, you scared us," Funk said, clutching her chest. Amina smiled, though her eyes scanned the room. "Just checking on you too. How's the homework coming along?" "Almost done," Tunde replied, holding up a notebook. "We're just reviewing for the math test tomorrow." Amina nodded, though her instincts told her there was more to the story. "All right, don't stay up too late. You have school tomorrow." As she left the room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. She decided to trust her instincts and keep a closer eye on the twins. The next morning, Amina woke up early to prepare breakfast. She was surprised to find Tunde already in the kitchen, sipping a glass of water. "You're up early," she remarked, raising an eyebrow. Tunde shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd get a head start on the day." Amina studied his face, noticing the faint shadows under his eyes. "Is everything okay, Tunde? You seem distracted lately." Tunde hesitated before responding. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just school stress, I guess." Amina nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced. She decided to let it go for now, but she made a mental note to talk to him later. That evening, after school, the twins returned home to find Amina waiting for them in the living room. She had a serious expression on her face, and Tunde and Funk exchanged nervous glances. "Come sit down," Amina said, gesturing to the couch. "We need to talk." The twins obeyed, sitting side by side. Amina took a deep breath before speaking. "I've noticed that something's been off between you two lately. I want you to be honest with me. Is there something going on that I should know about?" Tunde and Funk exchanged another glance, their faces pale. Funk was the first to speak. "Mom, it's nothing serious. We've just been closer lately. You know how twins are." Amina's eyes narrowed. "Closer how?" Tunde jumped in, his voice trembling slightly. "We've just been spending more time together, that's all. Reading, talking, normal stuff." Amina studied their faces, her motherly instincts kicking in. She could tell they were hiding something, but she didn't want to push too hard. "All right," she said finally. "But remember, you can always talk to me about anything. I'm here for you." The twins nodded, relief washing over their faces. "Thanks, Mom," Funk said softly. Later that night, as Amina lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She turned to Emeka, who was reading a book beside her. "Do you think the twins are hiding something from us?" she asked. Emeka looked up, surprised. "Why do you say that?" "I don't know," Amina admitted. "I just have this feeling. They've been acting different lately." Emeka sighed, setting his book aside. "They're teenagers, Amina. They're bound to have their secrets. But if something's really wrong, they'll come to us when they're ready." Amina nodded, though her heart was still heavy. She decided to trust Emeka's words, but she made a silent promise to herself to keep a closer eye on the twins. The next day, Amina decided to take a more proactive approach. She called the twins into the living room after dinner. "I've been thinking," she began, "and I want us to spend more time together as a family. How about we start a weekly family game night?" Tunde and Funk exchanged surprised glances before nodding. That sounds fun, Funk said with a smile. Amina smiled back, though her eyes were still searching. She hoped that by spending more time together, she could uncover whatever secrets the twins were keeping and, more importantly, help them navigate whatever challenges they were facing.